So the general characteristic of the acids and bases. The last session we have discussed the definition of the acid. What is the definition of acid? Acids are proton donors, and there are different reactions of the acid or characteristic reactions of the acid. The first one we have completed in the last session when acid is reacting with metal. The second reaction for acid, when any acid is there, react with metal oxide or metal hydroxide, which is known as a base. Metal oxide is known as insoluble base. This is a name used for metal oxide. So when acid is reacting with metal oxide, or we also call that as insoluble base, what will be the result for this? This will form salt plus water. So whenever acid plus metal oxide, which is also known as insoluble base, the result will be salt and water. And the same way, the name of the salt, the first name is coming from the metal oxide and the second name is coming from acid. So example, if we say we have calcium oxide plus hydrochloric acid. Calcium oxide plus hydrochloric acid. So what will be the result? So calcium oxide is what? Metal oxide. This is called a base, insoluble base, or you can also say base. Hydrochloric acid, this is from the name, you know, it's acid. When they react with each other, this will result in a formation of salt and water. So which salt is formed? Always the first name of the salt is a metal. So what is a metal here? Because calcium is a metal, so the first name is coming from calcium. So the first name will be calcium. And the second name is depending on which acid react. If it's a hydrochloric acid, then it will be chloride salt. So the resultant salt will be calcium chloride plus water. So acid plus metal oxide or metal oxide plus acid, the result will always be a metal, the salt will be there plus water. Another example, if we have magnesium oxide plus nitric acid. So there is magnesium oxide mixed with nitric acid. What will be the result? Magnesium oxide, metal oxide is also called a base. Yeah, that's right. And nitric acid, which is an acid. So this will result in a formation of a salt. The first name of a salt is always a metal. So which metal is there? Magnesium is there, so it will be magnesium. The second name is from acid because it's a nitric acid, so this will result in a formation of nitrate plus water as a product. So whenever metal oxide is there, or also known as insoluble base, the result will always be salt and water. If we have, say, aluminum oxide reacted with sulfuric acid, so what will be the product when aluminum oxide mixed with sulfuric acid? So when metal oxide mixed with acid, the result will be salt and water. So it will produce aluminium sulfate, because aluminium sulfate is a salt here. The first name of a salt is from metal, so aluminium sulfate plus water will be there as a product. And what is the observation? When metal oxide, acid is there, acids are always aqueous, metal oxide is solid, salt will be aqueous, and water is liquid. So the only thing when aqueous or liquid are there, we don't observe them. The only thing what we'll see, that the metal oxide or the solid size will decrease. So observation here, because there is no gas given out, so observation is just the solid size decreases, or size of the solid will decrease and it will produce a salt solution. So this is a second characteristic of acid. Whenever acid react with metal oxide, also known as insoluble base, this will result in a formation of salt and water. Is it clear? The second type of reaction of acid. The third type of reaction, when acid is mixed with metal hydroxide, which is also known as soluble base. So acid plus metal hydroxide, this will result in a formation of salt plus water. So acid plus metal hydroxide result in a formation of salt and water. So same result is there. As you can see, the previous example, acid plus metal oxide, salt and water. And this example also, acid plus metal hydroxide. Metal hydroxide, basically it's a solution. So the product remains the same. If I say we have sodium hydroxide reacted with nitric acid. So sodium hydroxide react with nitric acid. Sodium hydroxide. What is sodium hydroxide? Sodium hydroxide is a soluble base. Nitric acid, this is acid. This will result in a formation of salt and water. Which salt will be formed? How will identify the salt formed? Sodium hydroxide plus nitric acid. So first name of a salt is always the metal. So what is the metal here? Sodium is the metal. The first name is sodium. And the second name, because it is nitric acid, so it will be nitrate. Plus water will be there as a product. So sodium hydroxide plus nitric acid gives sodium nitrate plus water. Another example, if we have potassium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide mixed with sulfuric acid. So the first name of the salt is from metal, is starting with the metal name, and the second name is from the acid which react. Yeah, that's right. So it will produce, this is a base, here sulfuric, that is acid. This will result in a formation of potassium sulfate plus water. That is a product which is formed when these two react with each other. And we don't observe anything, no observation when acid react with metal hydroxide, because acid is aqueous, a solution, metal hydroxide is a solution, salt will form as a solution, and water is a liquid. So whenever we react metal hydroxide with acid, there is no specific observation, like we don't observe any specific thing. And the last characteristic of the acid, when acid is there, react with metal carbonate. So acid plus metal carbonate, what will be the product? The product is salt. You have to memorize these four characteristics of the acid, the reaction of acid. So it will produce salt, it will produce water, and the carbon dioxide. So salt, water, and carbon dioxide are the three products formed when acid is reacting with metal carbonate. So acid plus metal carbonate, salt, water, and carbon dioxide. So if we want to complete a product, like we say any metal carbonate, and it's not a rule that first I should write metal carbonate and then acid. It can be other way around. So, or first I don't have to write acid, I can write metal carbonate. Example, we have sodium carbonate mixed with nitric acid. So sodium carbonate is there, that is mixed with nitric acid. Now what will be the result when metal carbonate mixed with acid? This will produce salt. So what salt will be there? Because, yeah, that's right, it will produce sodium nitrate. It will produce water, and it will produce carbon dioxide. So we can write, because this is a word equation, that's why we are not writing the symbols. Another example, if we have lead carbonate and that is mixed with hydrochloric acid, or yeah, hydrochloric acid. So lead carbonate is there, that is mixed with hydrochloric acid. So it will produce lead chloride, because it's a hydrochloric acid, that will result in a formation of lead chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. So the four characteristics of acid you have to learn or memorize. In the presentation I did not include, I just mentioned three of them. I did not write, like I did not separate here, I used the term base. But later on you will learn, like it can be a soluble base, metal oxide, or this equation, the equation 2 can be categorized as, it can be a reaction of metal oxide plus acid, it can be a reaction of metal hydroxide plus acid. So whenever acids are reacting with these metal oxide or metal hydroxide, it will result in a formation of salt and water. So these characteristics you have to learn. And all the three observations of above reaction which are mentioned are called neutralization reaction. So sometimes they ask what is the name given to when I say hydrochloric acid is mixed with metal, or hydrochloric acid is mixed with any metal oxide or metal hydroxide or metal carbonate. So what we call these reactions, we call them as neutralization reaction. And in the beginning, as I mentioned, hydrochloric acid produce chloride salt, nitric acid will produce nitrate salt, and sulfuric acid will produce sulfate salt. Then the color of indicators, the term neutralization, all these as name, all these reactions are called neutralization reaction. Like example, if I say This is a common name given to the reaction of acid. If I say I have acid reacted, like if I say hydrochloric acid or sodium is mixed with hydrochloric acid. So sodium is mixed with hydrochloric acid. What will be the result? It is metal. Sodium is a metal. Hydrochloric acid is acid. So metal plus acid. The result should be salt and hydrogen. So which salt will be there produced? The first name is from metal. So it will produce sodium, and hydrochloric acid means chloride. The chloride salt produced. And as a result, it will be a hydrogen gas as well. So what is the name given to this reaction? What is the journal name given to this reaction? What we call that as neutralization. This reaction is termed as neutralization reaction. Same way, if we have sodium oxide plus nitric acid, so sodium oxide is a base or metal oxide, nitric acid is there. What will be the product when sodium oxide react with nitric acid? This will produce sodium nitrate plus water, because acid plus base gives salt and water, not hydrogen. So this will be salt, and here it is water. So what we call this reaction, when acid is reacting with metal oxide, this is also called as or known as neutralization. And the last one, if we have, like example, sodium carbonate. The reason why I took sodium, so that you can understand the name of the salt easily. So sodium carbonate plus sulfuric acid. So metal carbonate plus acid. Metal carbonate plus acid. What it result? It will result in a formation of salt, water, and carbon dioxide. So which salt will be there? Sodium carbonate plus sulfuric acid. This will produce sodium sulfate plus water plus carbon dioxide. So these are the products which will be formed. And what we call this reaction, so this reaction is also known as neutralization. So basically the reactions of the acid are also known as neutralization reaction, when acid is reacting with metal oxide, metal hydroxide, or metal carbonate. Is it clear? Then there are certain chemicals which show a color in different medium, which are known as indicators. So what is the effect of the indicator? You have to learn the name of 3 basic indicators. There are more, but 3 basic are there. So basically, what are indicators? Indicators are substances which show different colors in different mediums. Like if a substance is acidic, if we have an acid, we can have different types of indicator. We can use a red litmus. So red litmus, if I like, this is the name of the indicator. There are different types of indicators. The first one is a red litmus. So what is a red litmus? A red litmus, if we add in acidic solution, if it is added to acid, it will remain red. But if it is added to a neutral solution, it also remain red. But if it is added to an alkaline solution, a solution which is not acidic, opposite of acidic, that's alkaline, so it will turn blue. The indicator will show a color change. But if we use a blue litmus, if there's a blue litmus, what will happen? It will turn red in acidic, but in neutral or alkaline, it will remain blue. And if we have a methyl orange, then it will be red in acidic, it will be yellow in neutral, and it will be yellow in alkaline. So these are three main indicators which you have to learn later in the chapter. We will discuss more about indicators, but this is just a way to identify the nature of the solution, because acids and alkalis are colorless. So by looking at them, it's difficult to identify the nature. So to identify the nature, what we do, we use indicators. Is it clear the concept or the purpose of the indicator? So indicators are substances which are used to identify the nature of the substance. So this is for the class today, the explanation point of view. So we started with a definition of acid, and then we discussed the characteristic of the acid, and the last part was about the indicators.